Hello learners, welcome to my English class. I hope you are well by the grace of Allah. I am also well. I am Abdullah Al Mamun, Assistant Teacher, English, Dulalpur C.M High School, Humna Kumilla. Dear learners, you know our schools have been closed for many days and our class has also been suspended for many days, yet we have to continue our studies. So dear learners, I would like to take a class on English grammar for class 9 and 10. So dear learners, no longer wait, just start my class. Dear learners, my today's topic is clause. Clause is very important for you because it is related to changing sentence of simple, complex and compound. So dear learners, I think if you have a good idea on clause, you will be able to change the sentences of simple, complex and compound. Dear learners, now you have to know what's clause. Clause is the group of words that contains a subject and a finite verb. That is, a clause must have a subject and a finite verb. So dear learners, look at the sentences, then you will be able to understand clause. Dear learners, clause is considered as the part of a large sentence. So dear learners, though he helped me, I could not solve the problem. Here, though he helped me, this is a part. I could not solve the problem, this is also a part. That is, though he helped me, this is a clause. I could not solve the problem, this is also a clause. In the second sentence, as the weather is foggy, I shall not drive today. Here, as the weather is foggy, this is a part. I shall not drive today, this is also a part. Rupgons is the village where Tarek was born. Here, Rupgons is the village, is a part, and where Tarek was born is also a part. So dear learners, though he helped me, here he is the subject and help is the finite verb, so this is a clause. In the second part, I could not solve the problem. Here I is the subject and solve is the finite verb. So I could not solve the problem, this is also a clause. In the second sentence, as the weather is foggy, this is a clause. I shall not drive today, this is also a clause. In third sentence, Rupgons is the village, this is a clause. Where Tariq was born, this is the clause. So dear learners, I think that you have understood what's clause. Now dear learners, I would also inform you that clause is different from phrase. That is, like a clause, phrase is a group of words that has no subject and a finite verb. So clause is different from phrase. Dear learners, now I would like to describe you the kinds of clause. Dear learners, clauses of three kinds, that is independent clause, subordinate clause and coordinate clause. At first, I would like to describe independent clause and subordinate clause. Dear learners, at first independent clause. Independent clause means the clause that can stand itself and can express a complete sense without depending on other clauses. That is, independent clause হচ্ছে এমন একটা ক্লজ যে ক্লজটা স্বাধীনভাবে কি করতে পারে, অর্থ প্রকাশ করতে পারে এবং এই ক্লজটা অন্য ক্লজের উপর অর্থ প্রকাশ করার জন্য অন্য ক্লজের উপর নির্ভরশীল হয় না. That is, it stands itself and can express a complete sense without depending on other clauses. Is it clear to you? So dear learners, that is a subordinate, we can say subordinate clause. The another name of independent clause is principal clause or main clause. So dear learners, I would also inform you that an independent clause is free from any subordinating conjunction, any relative pronoun or any relative words. This is free. So this is in this sentence, though he helped me, I could not solve the problem. Here I could not solve the problem. If I say the meaning, আমি সমস্যাটা সমাধান করতে পারিনি, এখানে আমরা এটা কমপ্লিট অর্থ বুঝতে পেরেছি. বাট ইফ আই সে though he helped me, যদিও সে আমাকে সাহায্য করেছিল, এখানে আমি আর কিছুই বললাম না, সেখানে কিন্তু অর্থটা ক্লিয়ার বোঝা যাচ্ছে না. সো I could not solve the problem. This is an independent clause because this clause does not start with as, since, or who, which, or other relative words. So this is an independent clause. In the second sentence, as the weather is foggy, I shall not drive today. আমি আজ গাড়ি চালাবো না. This is an independent clause. In the third sentence, Rupgons is the village is an independent clause. Now, dear learners, I think you have clear idea about independent clause. That is, this type of clause can stand itself, and it does not start with subordinating conjunction, relative pronoun, or other relative words. Now, dear learners, I would like to describe subordinate clause. This is very important. Also, dear learners, subordinate clause is a clause that cannot stand itself and cannot express a complete sense without depending on principal clause, without depending on an independent clause. That is, this clause cannot give a complete sense. I would also like to inform you that a subordinate clause starts with subordinating conjunction like as, since, though, although, because, so that, etc. It may start with who, whom, whose, which, what. These are called relative pronoun. It may also start with other relative words like when, where, how, why, etc. This is subordinate clause. For example, though he helped me, যদিও সে আমাকে সাহায্য করেছিল, আমি এটুকু বলার পরে এখানে আর কিছু বললাম না, এখানে কিন্তু সম্পূর্ণ অর্থ প্রকাশ করে না। তাছাড়া এটা শুরু হয়েছে দো দিয়ে, which is a subordinating conjunction. Next, sentence number 2. As the weather is foggy, this is a subordinate clause because this clause starts with as. Next, in the third sentence, where Tarek was born is a subordinate clause. Here, where is a relative word. Where is a relative word. So, dear learners, I think you have understood clause clearly. Now, dear learners, I would like to introduce simple, complex, and compound sentence. Before discussing compound sentence, I will give you an idea on coordinate clause. Now, I would like to discuss simple sentence and complex sentence. So, dear learners, here in the first sentence, I could not solve the problem. This is the part of a large sentence. If I separate this part, this can also give a complete sense. So, this is a simple sentence. That is, আমি যদি এই ক্লজটাকে বড় সেন্টেন্স থেকে আমি কি করে আলাদা করে ফেলি, তাহলেও এটা কি করতে পারবে, একটা সম্পূর্ণ মনোভাব প্রকাশ করতে পারবে। সুতরাং এটা হলো সিম্পল সেন্টেন্স। That is, now you have to know what is simple sentence. The sentence that has only a subject and a finite verb is a simple sentence. And a simple sentence, as it is a sentence, it can give a complete sense. So, in the first sentence, I is the subject and solve is the finite verb. So, this is the example of simple sentence because this sentence has only a subject and a finite verb. In the second example, I shall not drive today. আমি আজ গাড়ি চালাবো না। যদিও এটা হচ্ছে একটা কমপ্লেক্স সেন্টেন্সের একটা ক্লজ, কিন্তু আমি যদি ক্লজটাকে আলাদা করে ফেলি তাহলে এটা কি করবে, সম্পূর্ণ মনোভাব প্রকাশ করবে। So this is the example of a simple sentence. Here I is the subject, drive is the finite verb. In the third sentence, Rupgons is the village. This is a simple sentence. So, dear learners, simple sentence is one that contains only a subject and a finite verb. Next, I would like to discuss complex sentence. Dear learners, I have already discussed independent clause and subordinate clause. In a complex sentence is the combination of an independent clause and a subordinate clause. That is, a complex sentence has a principal clause and a subordinate clause. So, example A, B, C, all the sentences are the examples of complex sentence. Now, try to understand in sentence number 1, though he helped me is a subordinate clause. I could not solve the problem is an independent clause. That is, this is subordinate clause. I could not solve the problem is an independent clause. So, this is the example of a complex sentence because a complex sentence provides a principal clause and the subordinate clause. Next, in the second sentence, as the weather is foggy, this is a subordinate clause. I shall not drive today. This is an independent clause. In the third sentence, Rupganj is the village is an independent clause. Where Tarek was born is a subordinate clause. So, dear learners, I have discussed about clause, simple and complex, simple sentence and complex sentence. I think that you have a good idea on these topics. Now, dear learners, I would like to describe coordinate clause. Dear learners, look at the sentences. Look at the sentences. Though he helped me, if I write, he helped me. Here if I write, he helped me. Here if I write and he helped me, but I could not solve the problem. In the second sentence, if I write, the weather is foggy and I shall not drive today. The third sentence, Rupganj is the village and Tarek was born there. Dear learners, look at the sentences and try to understand the meaning. Here, dear learners, he helped me. He helped me. This is a clause. The meaning, Bengali meaning is she amake সাহায্য করেছিল. I could not solve the problem. আমি সমস্যাটা সমাধান করতে পারি নাই. Dear learners, here both are the he helped me is an independent clause. I could not solve the problem is also an independent clause. And this clause is added. These clauses are connected with but. Connected with but. So, dear learners, what is the definition of a coordinate clause? That is, when an independent clause is connected with other independent clause, connected by but, and, or, yet, etc. These are called coordinating conjunction. So, this is a coordinate clause. That is, a coordinate clause. A coordinate clause is connected with another coordinate. A coordinate clause connected with an independent clause connected with another independent clause by but, and, or, yet, etc. That is, যখন দুইটা স্বাধীন ক্লজ but, and, yet, or ইত্যাদি কোঅর্ডিনেটিং কনজাংশন দ্বারা কি হয় যুক্ত হয় তখন তাকে আমরা কি বলবো কোঅর্ডিনেট ক্লজ বলবো. So, dear learners, he helped me but I could not solve the problem. Here he helped me but I could not solve the problem. I could not solve the problem. This clause has been connected to he helped me with but. Like this, the weather is foggy and I shall not drive today. This is an independent clause. This is also an independent clause. Rupganj is the village is an independent clause. Tarek was born there is also an independent clause. So, these are the examples of coordinate clause. Now, dear learners, and all these are the examples of compound sentence. So, dear learners, what is compound sentence? A compound sentence is a sentence that has two independent clauses connected with and, but, or, yet, etc. is called compound sentence. যদি আমরা বাংলাতে বলি যে সেন্টেন্সের মধ্যে দুইটা স্বাধীন ক্লজ and, but, or, yet ইত্যাদি কোঅর্ডিনেটিং কনজাংশন দ্বারা যুক্ত হয় তখন তাকে কম্পাউন্ড সেন্টেন্স আমরা বলবো. So, dear learners, today I have given you idea on clause kinds of clause: simple sentence, complex sentence, and compound sentence. So, dear learners, I will revise. That is, clause is a group of words that has a subject and a finite verb. Clause is three kinds, that is independent clause, subordinate clause, and coordinate clause. Independent clause can express its meaning, express a complete sense without the help of other clauses. Subordinate clause cannot express its meaning without the help of principal clause. And subordinate clause starts with subordinating conjunction like as, is, relative pronoun who, whom, whose, relative words like when, where, how, etc. And we also coordinate clause. In a coordinate clause, two main clauses are connected with and, by, or, yet, etc. Simple sentence: the sentence has only a subject and a finite verb is called simple sentence. The sentence that has an independent clause and a subordinate clause is a complex sentence. The sentence that has two independent clauses connected with by and, with, or, etc., connected with and, with, and, or, but, etc., is called compound sentence. So, dear learners, I think that you have understood clearly and enjoyed my class. Dear learners, now I would like to give you homework. Homework. Write 5 sentences indicating write 5 examples on clause indicating principal